Hi, this is Dave with Rainer Garage Doors from the Rainer Academy. I'm the product manager for sectional garage doors. In today's episode of Between the Jams, we're going to talk about residential garage door hardware, how we do things and how some of our competitors do things, and what that means to you. Let's look at the track mounting. The track mounting system and the hardware carry the load of the door. The track and the hardware give your door the integrity that's going to make your door last and operate correctly for years to come. One of the key components to start with is the wall bracket. The wall brackets mount into your wall and then to your vertical tracks. Function of these is to hold those vertical tracks perfectly still so there's no deflection or movement. As you can see with the Rainer bracket, it's much larger than the competitor's bracket and a heavier gauge as well. This is going to keep your vertical tracks secure and allow no movement so that the door goes up and down properly. Let's talk about the vertical tracks. The vertical tracks bolt to your wall brackets. The vertical tracks have to be robust enough to limit deflection of the garage door and keep it tight in place. This will also provide a good positive seal against the opening in the jamb. As you can see from the Rainer piece, this is a heavy gauge steel piece. If you look at some of our competitors, they use a much lighter gauge piece and you're going to get more deflection and twist in this type of track. Let's talk about the flag brackets next. Your flag bracket is what joins your vertical track to your horizontal track. This has to be a robust piece so that there's no deflection as the door moves through the vertical tracks up into the horizontal position. As you can see with the Rainer piece, this is a very substantial, heavy bracket, wide enough to disperse loads. When you look at the competitor's bracket, you can see a much smaller area here to disperse loads, and again, a narrower gauge metal. From the flag bracket, the next piece is your horizontal track. This is what will transition your door as it goes up into the open position. The horizontal track bears the full weight of the door. This has to be a robust piece, heavy gauge metal. As you can see with the Rainer piece, we use heavy gauge steel as compared to what some of our competitors are doing out there. It's a narrower gauge steel and a smaller piece. What's critical here to note is that when you look at the overall length, the Rainer track is 5 inches longer than the competitor's track. This is insurance that that back roller won't pop out of the track. It'll keep the door where it belongs. Let's look at the hardware in the door now. The hardware plays a key role in giving the door structural integrity and limiting movement. The hardware has to function properly and limit deflection and bending. Let's start up at the top of the door. This is the upper roller brackets. As you can see, the Rainer piece is a heavy gauge bracket, gusseted, that won't have any movement. Competitive piece is a formed piece of steel, a thin gauge, and can move and bend. As we move down the door, the sections are held together by center hinges. As you can see, there's a substantial difference in the hinges that we use versus the competitors. As you can see with our Rainer hinge, it has a very wide area, heavy gauge metal to disperse that load and hold those sections in place. Competitive hinge is much smaller in area and a narrower gauge metal. Down at the bottom of the door is the bottom bracket. The cable attaches to this bottom bracket and lifts the door. All of the load of the door is coming up with this bottom bracket. The Rainer bracket is a two-piece safety design. The cable attaches to the safety element that goes inside the door, and then the bottom bracket is bolted to it. As you can see, it's a large bottom bracket with a lot of area and a heavy gauge metal to take all that load. The competitive bracket is a narrower gauge metal, smaller in area, plus it has the cable attachment that is integrated right into it. If someone were to unbolt this bracket, the full load of the springs and that cable are on this can come flying off and someone can get hurt. Or with the Rainer bracket, this is an integral piece into the door that if someone did remove the bracket, this piece that holds the cable under the spring pressure is still inside the door and can't come off. What holds that door in place and actually gets it up and down in the tracks? We have rollers. We have two different philosophies on rollers going here. With Rainer, we use a heavy gauge stemmed roller It's a steel wheel with stainless steel ball bearings to absorb and take all the load and the weight of the door as it goes up and down the tracks. When we look at our competitive piece, they're using just a plastic wheel on a stem with no internal ball bearings. This piece is going to wear fast, whereas the Rainer piece is going to last for years and years and years. The last piece I want to talk about is nuts and bolts that actually hold all this stuff together. Rainer, we have 5/16 track bolts and spin lock nuts. Our competitors, some are using 1/4 inch nuts and bolts. Which would you rather have? At Rainer, each and every component of the door is designed and engineered for a specific function and to do a specific job. We want your door to last for years and years and years. So let me ask you, what would you want between your jambs? Rainer or someone else?